All right, welcome back to Intro to Technology 1023. Today we're going to go over Word. So the PowerPoint portion of this is going to be extraordinarily short. Word is relatively simple, and the things that we do need to go over, I'm going to have to show you anyways. So the presentation portion of this, again, is going to be short. All right, so a general overview of Microsoft Word. It's a word processor, right? Word. There's a bunch of them out there at this point, especially if you're going to go into the Linux world. You're going to have to navigate between the dominance of Microsoft and then whatever replacement that this open source software has, which it's come a long ways, but it's still not perfect. Okay, so originally created by Charles, I'm going to take a shot at this and go Simoni. I tried. Richard Brody, that both worked at What You See Is What You Get software at Xerox. So yeah, WYSIWYG is typically how people say that. Stands for what you see is what you get. Xerox at one point in time was one of the leaders of creating new software and GUI interfaces. So it doesn't really surprise me that the original Microsoft Word, before Word actually bought it, came from Xerox. All right. It was released in 1981. Okay. So that gives you a sense of how long this thing has been around and how many different versions there are of Word. And then we'll get into some of the complications of having software that's been around for that long. And then on top of that, the fundamental differences between Office 365 and desktop. Yeah, we'll get into the differences between a web application and a desktop application because there are significant differences, particularly when you start talking about languages and what the language can actually do. Okay. So primary functions that we want to cover and make sure that you're fluent with, these are the things that I use all the time, especially if I'm going through a schooling curriculum like I am now. These are the things that we use a lot. So fonts, text styles, list and bullets, paragraph spacing, dictation, custom cover pages, hyperlinks, themes, page numbers, tables of contents and figures, read aloud, navigation, and ruler and grid lines. So those are the basic things. There are a ton more features inside of Word, but with that said, for the most part, you're not going to use them unless there is a absolutely it's very unlikely you're going to end up using them. And if you do, it's going to be so far in the future, you're going to forget about it anyways, and you're going to have to use Google to figure it out. So not even spending time on it. Okay, so I have a couple screenshots here of what we're representing. So table of contents, this is a automatically generated one. A good chunk of you are already going to know how to do this. Okay, table of figures, same thing, auto-generated. Okay, general stuff here, how to implement a video, how to put figures on those videos, figures in any type of descriptions. We have header titles here. We have paragraph spacing, which is 1.5. We have grouping of images to represent a single image or a single figure. Okay. But generally speaking, I'm going to have to show you how to do all these things. And what we're going to end up doing is recreating a relatively long document that I made about a year ago for my master's program. So this is, according to this, a 23-page document, and we're going to recreate this. So right here is a custom cover page. Okay, we have our table of contents here, table of figures, and then we have our custom headers here. So if I come up here, and right here is a custom header. Notice that this is green right here, and I come in to modify, and all these are preset. So this is a good way of not having to go through every single header and fix it. You just come in here and change the style. Okay. Everything else is basically standard procedure. Oh, we have a footnote here. We'll go over that since it's there. Okay. And yeah, this is what we're going to do. So the Microsoft Word portion of this course is going to be very, very short. If you're taking it in person at Alfred State, more than likely is going to be maybe one class period. More than likely is going to take a portion of a class period, and then we move on to PowerPoint. Okay, so with that said, oh, and then we can make these little diagram things. I'll show you how to do that. So with that said, I will see you in the next one, which is PowerPoint. All right, welcome to the demonstration portion of Microsoft Word, where we're going to go over how to recreate that document that I showed you in the presentation portion. So what I got here is called Starting Point. So if you're an Upper State student, you're definitely going to have access to this. If you are on YouTube, look in the link below, and hopefully there's something there, probably on Google Drive. Okay, starting point. We're essentially what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to get a lot of the automated uh, table of figures, table of contents, how to do custom cover pages, footnotes, grouping images. Okay, we're essentially going to recreate this document where it's actually presentable. So the content itself, in terms of the paper that I wrote a while back, is the same. So right here's the original document. Okay, so here's a custom cover page. We have table of contents. We have table of figures. Okay, so if I open this up a little bit and then I go to view, I show a navigation plane. I'm going to show you how to create this as well. This is actually automated, but I'll show you how this actually works. So if I come to schema, okay, there's that universal factors, come down here. So this allows you to jump around in the document extraordinarily quickly, especially if you have it nice and organized like this. So if I come up to here, table figures, okay. And right now I'm seeing a problem with my original document, table of figures. I don't see table of contents at all. So let's go ahead and it's a little odd. So styles one, does it fix it? Yep. Okay, cool. So those type of mistakes are very, very easy to do. I'm sure that there's going to be a handful of those that show up here. I'm definitely not going to edit those out. I'm going to show you guys that it doesn't matter how long you've been using this for, you're going to have those mistakes. There is no reasonable way to be perfect and be 100% efficient when you're using something like this, even if it's designed to be relatively easy. So with that said, we're looking at a blank page on our starting document here. We're going to have to create a custom cover page. So generally speaking, what I like to do, there's two ways to do this. You can make it from scratch. You can do that. I like doing this where we enter this, come over to pages. Oh, a little quick there. So I was on the home tab. If we come over here to insert, click, there's a little drop down for pages, cover page, and then we choose one of these built-in ones. Then we can alter it from there. So the keen eye among you would have noticed that we started with this one. We're going to insert that. Okay. So with that said, there's a lot of automation here. So publish date, we can keep that there if you want to do it like that. I typically find this gets in the way more times than not. Okay, document title, document subtitle. Okay, I'm also noticing that our text is significantly different. Okay, and then we have different colors over here for our bar. Now, what I'm going to do here is instead of doing this date, I'm going to essentially just recreate this. So I need this title. Now I'm looking at this here and it looks like a text box that I used from before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. Sorry. So if I click on this date, notice that this is perforated in here. Okay. This signifies that this is a active object. So if I come over here with my cursor and I hover over that perforated line and I click on it, now it's solid. I can actually get rid of this by using the delete key. Delete. Okay. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to recreate this title here. So we actually are going to use a text box. So I'm going to come over here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so right here is our text section. I'm going to use text box. Notice that you have other options here. I don't use word art very much anymore. I don't know if you guys would. It's just not appropriate for most things. Okay, so I'm going to use this simple text box. Bang. Okay, now we got a text box here. First thing I'm going to have to point out is we are limited in terms of where we can actually put this. So as I try to drag my cursor up here, it is not working. I can go over here. Okay, we can fix that with padding on either side. I'm not going to because this is actually what I want. So here's this. I'm going to grab this little bulb right here. We're going to have the horizontal axis that shows up as a visual signification that this is what it's trying to do. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the original document. I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste, and it's going to have all the styles that I had with this one. So if I come back over here to home, this is Arial 24. Also notice once I get off of that text, it goes back to Arial 11. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that line. Backspace is not working. That is okay. So what I'll do here is I'm going to control all since it's being fussy. And I'm going to reset this to 24. And now both of the lines that are down here are 24 as well. So I'm going to shrink that. Now notice that we still have a border here. And naturally, I don't have it over here. So I want to recreate that. I'm going to click on this, make sure I have these little dots here, make sure that the border is actually solid. Okay, I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to come over to, where is it? Okay, generally you get a little hover thing that shows up. So I'm going to format shape. This is another way of handling that. Okay. Okay, we got shape option, text, okay, fill line, which is going to represent that border. Notice that there's a solid line here. I want no line. Okay, notice that this is gray now. I'm going to close format shape. I'm going to deactivate that object. And now we have no border. And it acts the same as this. Actually, this has a space to it. So if I, now it's the same. Awesome. Okay. There's that. Now we are coming down here. We have document title. Okay. Subtitle. Okay. So all this is auto-generated. If you want to do it like this, you can. So we can do think like engineer, which is spelled incorrectly. So there's that. Think like blah engine blah still blah. Now this author name is auto-generated. This comes directly from Windows. All right. Company name, if you can set your company name if you want. Okay, and this would auto-generate in the future. So this is helpful for like letterheads or official documents within your company. We don't need any of that. Okay, so we're going to do something very, very similar to what we did up top. We're going to get rid of both of these. Bang. Okay, we're going to come back over to insert. We're going to come back over the text. We're going to use text box. Okay. And then we're going to get down as reasonably low as we can. We're going to have to move this eventually here in a second anyways. So we have HCI 500. My name, your name, doesn't really matter. Justin Briggs. And then Dr. Schofield. Okay. So there's our little text box. We have our border again. So format shape. Line, no line, close that. Awesome. Let's make sure that this is the same. So I'm going to open this up. home font. Okay, so if you ever find yourself in this scenario where you are jumping between something that's hidden for the ribbon here and you want it to stay there, there's a little pin right there, and then that will stay open now. So this is Arial 14 for down here. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix this. So I'm going to highlight or Control All for that. And I did say 14, so Arial 14. So that is back to what I'm looking for. Okay, so the next portion here is this bit right here. Okay, so this object is a group because we have a separate object here and then a separate object here. So if we double click here, now we can actually activate one of those objects. So the first thing that I'm actually going to do is I'm going to remove this group. So I right clicked on this. I'm going to come down to group, ungroup, and now I have access to both of these objects individually. And the reason why I want to do that is because I really need to line this up with the rest of the document. So I'm going to zoom in here. And what this is going to give us is the 3 buttons again. And this is going to allow me to come down here like that. Okay. There's that. I'm going to throw that up here. Okay. I'm going to move this up. And I want this directly in the corner, like that. Same thing with this. I want this all the way down so it actually lines up. Let's go ahead and shrink this a bit. There's that. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to line this up with the blue object. Okay, we are doing pretty good so far. And now I'm going to make this orange bar bigger to make it look like it was before. I'm going to zoom back out. Okay, awesome. Now we have this at the correct size, so it's not off the page and it's still within the realm of the rest of these text boxes. Okay, I'm going to make this a little smaller. Bang. Same thing with this. Okay, there's that. Now we're going to have to change the color here. So there's a few things that we can do, and without going into how to use photo editing software, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the original color over here. So if I do one of these, okay, shape fill, here it is. Okay, if I come down to more color, notice that more color here has my RGB and then my hex value right here. I'm going to copy this hex value because that means I only have to copy one thing. I'm going to exit out of that. I'm going to right click on this again. Let's use format shape this time. I'm going to come down to fill, solid color, and instead of orange, I'm going to come over to more color. And then I'm going to paste that hex value in here. And now we have the same color green. I'm going to do the same process over here. Okay. Shape fill, more color, hex. Okay, here we go. This is saying a color of blue. We need to change this to a color of this custom Oswego yellow. There we go. All right, now we have this. I'm going to regroup this object. Okay, so I'm going to select both of those. Now to do that, we have one object activated. That was a left click. And then I'm going to hold Control and then left click again. All right, we're going to group. Bang. I'm going to move this over now. Now I'm going to put this right in the corner, like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing with these other objects. So we have that. We have this. And one thing that I would like to do that I am noticing that I don't have is, let's go ahead and put this somewhere in the middle. Okay, so that is fine. Let's make this a little bump over here. Okay, so that just split the difference. Notice that these green lines tell you that this is in the center of the page. Okay, and what I'm going to do to fill up this space up here is I'm actually going to go get the Oswego logo. So let's go ahead and get that Oswego logo. And let's go with, oh, this one seems to be fine. Here we go. I'm going to copy, minimize, come back over here, paste. All right, and now we got our nice little logo here for Oswego. Okay, notice that the colors are matching. Colors, school colors. Okay, so Oswego, primary title, secondary information. Okay, and we have a custom cover page. Now, naturally, I don't want to redo this every single time I have to make a document. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start down here. We're going to click and drag and make sure that everything is activated. So I'm a little concerned that this is not activated. So I'm going to control and plus that. Now that is activated, if I come over to, and this is counterintuitive, if I come over to insert, pages, cover page, save selection to cover page gallery. Okay, notice I also have an Oswego template here without that logo. I'm going to make another template with the logo. Oswego template with logo, done. Okay. Now, with that said, I should be able to come over here to the original document and insert a cover page. Pages, blank page. Okay, here we go. I'm going to insert cover page. Now notice I have a third cover page over here with Oswego template. So if I click on that, and now we suddenly have the Oswego template with the logo as well. Okay, and here's the original. All right, so we're doing pretty good here. Now that was everything with the cover page. I'm going to move over here. Okay, and the next thing that you typically find on these documents is a table of contents. So if I click here, notice that nothing's here. There's no text, there's no styling, there's no format. I'm going to close that because it's in the way at the moment. So if I'm going to come over here to references, so we can actually have a table of contents. And the reason why it's in this tab is because when you're reading a relatively long document, you're referencing the table of contents so you can actually find what you're looking for. Not very often that you want to truly read a 100-page document all at once. Most of the time, you're looking for something in particular, and this is even more true for things like documentation in programming languages. You definitely don't want to read the entire thing. You want to look for an individual section. So if I click over here on table of contents, there are two options for automatic and then a manual table as well. For this course, we're going to focus on the automatic. And I like automatic table 2 for table of contents. And now notice that we have orientation and then idle. More than likely, this is, okay, so I have orientation here. I do not have idle. So if I come down here, just to show what is going on here. Okay. Now I just changed that header. I'll explain that in a second. I'm going to update this table, entire table. And now notice that I have idle. So on page 11, I have a header that is still there. So idle. Okay, interesting, interesting. There we go. So this is still a header. And again, I'll explain that here in a second. I'm going to go normal. Okay. So the way this table of contents actually works and how it's automated is that it has to reference a particular state within the document. So now that I don't have any headers here, table of contents is coming up with nothing. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is come down here, and every place where I originally had a header, like table of contents, table of figures, like orientation, assumptions, definitions, all right, we're going to need headers there. So let's start with orientation because that was in there first. Okay, orientation. Notice that we have this hover here that gives us a good chunk of things that we're going to use quite a bit. Now, what we're looking for is under styles. So if I click on styles and I come over to heading 1, click. All right. Notice that my font changed to green. If you haven't changed any of the styles yet, this is going to change to blue. Okay, so your font changed to green, and then depending on your settings, the font itself is probably Calibre. All right, so with that said, we just added this title. It is title 1 or header 1. I'm going to come back up here to table of contents, and now we have orientation. And also notice that it's saying that it's on page 3. All right. Now, one of the things I am noticing right off the bat is that there is no line over here to that page 3. So when you get a bunch of these in order, like this is relatively hard to find which page that this is on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, automate table 2. Okay, that is not working. All right. So we'll move on for a second. Once we get a bunch of these in here, we will come back to how to get that little dashy line thing. All right. So orientation, page 3. Awesome. Let's do a few more of these to show what I am trying to get at. Okay. So I have to be a little careful of going too quickly and going over some of these primary headers. Okay. So there's another one, definitions. Okay. Usability. 1. I believe this was a 1 as well. Okay, so we're going to head back up to table of contents here. What I'm going to do, because I'm going to be jumping around a lot, is view. I'm going to come over here to this view tab, and I am going to show navigation plane. Awesome. I'm going to come over to headings, orientation, blah, 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 blah. I forgot to add heading to my table of contents. Styles, heading. Interesting, that's not coming up. Anyways, not a big deal. So what we're going to do here now is, because we have those extra headers now, I'm going to update this table. And I want to update the entire table. Okay, we have orientation, definitions, usability, and then state-dependent analysis. Now, this is helpful because now if I can bring your attention over here to the left under navigation, I can jump to these things quickly. Okay, so this is helpful for finding things within the document. Now, one of the things that I need to bring up is things like this. Here's another title, but it's within orientation. Okay, so from a conceptual model standpoint, there are going to be headers that are going to be nested within your primary headers. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to come up to styles, and I'm going to go to heading 2. And now notice that this automatically updated. Now I have orientation and then assumption 1. So if I come up here to orientation, awesome. Inside of orientation is assumption 1. Okay. Here is assumption 2. Automatically updated. Now I have access to both of these from the navigation plane. All right. Definitions. Are the same. So here we go. 2, styles, heading 2, styles, heading 2, styles, heading 2, styles, heading 2, and then styles, heading 2. Oh, this is a 1. Okay, so if you were following along and you're doing that click and drag thing, that is pretty inefficient. So one of the things that you can do here is select multiple, at this state it would be states or fonts. So select your text. Okay, there's that. Okay, that's being annoying. So I'm going to highlight this, level 3, technical expert. Where's the level 1? Here's level 1. So I'm going to use control, and then I'm going to highlight this. Now I can adjust both of these at the same time. All these are going to be level 2. And notice that both of those updated at the same time. And then I can jump down here to level 3. So if you're following along and you haven't adjusted your styles yet on these headers, you have a bunch of blue headers. Now, if we are going to adjust that, we're going to have to come back over here to home. Okay. I'm going to right click on heading 1. Right click, and then I'm going to come over to modify. All right. So modify heading 1. Sure. That's fine. I haven't had a need to change that. Notice the formatting here. Okay, so we have Arial, we have 18 font, and then we have that green from before. This is Oswego green. Now, I have recent colors over here. I can change that to yellow if I want. I'm going to have a contrast area though, so I'm not going to do that. So this is how you change styles. Now I'm going to change that to yellow real quick just to show you that the update down here for your little viewport, it gives you a pretty good idea of what things are going to look like. So same thing with the justification over here. So I could center it as well if I want to do that. I don't. Okay. And I'm going to change it back to green. And we're going to be all set with this. Okay. So at this point, I need to check to see what else is over here. So we have table of contents. I need to update this. Okay, table of contents. Okay, we do have this. Now, one of the things I'm noticing right off the top is that we have some pretty strange spacing going on here. Okay, so I'm going to highlight all of this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to paragraph, which is over here. And this is your typical paragraph menu. Now we're going to be using this a little bit more when we get to our references, but for the time being, I need to draw your attention to line spacing, and then we're going to go 1.5 because we want consistent spacing in this. And now we have our consistent spacing. Also notice that any type of subheading has a indent under its primary header. So orientation, assumption 1, assumption 2. Definitions has something similar as well. All right. So with that said, let's come back over here. Table of figures. Let's go ahead and address that now. So what table of figures does, this is more helpful in research papers, but you're still going to need to know it for this just because it's part of the curriculum. But a table of figures, how it's used in the real world and how people actually use it is for research papers. If you're trying to find a particular graph or chart, which is typically where most of the information is going to be, especially if you want it in a snapshot type of form, it's going to be in a chart. So that's going to be a figure. So figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, jump to that, go get that thing out of that study, and then move on with life, because that's how a lot of people represent their work when it comes to research. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So very similar to table of content, we're going to have to come over to references. Okay, instead of table of contents over here, we need, no, citation, no. Review. Did I overlook it? Footnote, citation. Where to go? Okay, so one of the things that I just did here is I made this full screen, and what that does is it shows everything on the ribbon, so it's not hidden, because it seems like it was hidden. Table authorities, indexed, captions, citations, research, footnotes, table of contents, third table of figures, no. Where to go? Okay, insert. All right, well, this happens on occasion where you're going to have to go and Google where these things are. Word, table of figures. Okay, insert table of figures, references tab. I was on the references tab. Oh, it's next to insert caption. Why would it be next to insert caption? That is silly. Okay, so references, insert captions, table of figures. Okay, so now we have our menu up here. Here's your preview. Okay, blah, 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 from template. That's fine. Figure. Okay, still fine. I'm going to modify this a little bit. Okay, table of figures, Arial. We want this 12. Okay, that's also fine. So the only thing we changed there was the font size. We bumped that up to 12. Okay. Oh. Okay. Control Z. We're going to have to deactivate this. Come on, come on, come on. Word is upset at the moment. So, okay. So we deactivated table of contents, so it's not inside of it. Let's go back to references, insert figure. Okay. All right, now notice I have a handful of figures already here that I probably just missed from before. Okay, also notice that we don't have a header. So let's go table of figures. All right, and we can make our own. So bang, go up to 1, table of figures. Okay, let's go add a couple figures to this table. All right, and this doesn't auto update like table of contents. So we'll come back and fix that here in a second. So what we're going to do is activate a picture like this. I'm going to right click on it, and then I'm going to come down to insert caption, figure 1. Okay. There's that. Where'd my picture go? So it's there. Very strange. Okay. So one of the things I'm noticing right now is that this Arial 9 italics, let's assume for a second that this is not what I wanted. If we come back over to home, we hit this little arrow here for more. Okay. There should be a figure style right here. First one. Going to right click, go to modify. Now this is saying 11, which is actually what I want. Interesting. Okay. To fix this, we're going to go to create a new style. If you didn't see that, style 1, let's go figure 2. Okay, we're going to modify figure 2, blah, 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 blah. Instead of caption, we definitely want figure. We can go caption. That's fine. Okay, instead of Arial 9, let's go Arial 11. And for the sake of being a little bit different from the other style, I'm going to make it green. All right, I'm going to pull this up. All right, notice that changed to green. And my picture came back, so that's good. Let's find another one. Okay, so something like this, I wanted this to be a single object. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ungroup this just to show you what is going on with it. Okay, I'm going to ungroup again because that seemed to be nested. And notice that I have all these elements here. Okay, I don't want to address these individually because this conceptually is a single thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to activate all these images and objects. So I clicked on one image and then I'm going to use Control left click to get the rest of them. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's wait a couple seconds here for Word to cooperate. There we go. Of course, it deselect everything. Okay, now that everything's selected, I'm going to right click. I'm going to group. And now this is one object. Now that this is one object, I can come over here. Again, waiting for Word to cooperate. Come on. Here we go. Of course not. Let's try that again. Group. Oh, not group. Caption. Okay, figure 2. Label of figure. That's fine. Position. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. Okay, notice that it doesn't have the same style that we were looking for from before. There's that. I'm going to come up to figure 2. Notice that it got bigger, and now that the text is green. All right, I'm going to select both of these now, and then I'm going to group them together. And now I can move this around. So this also brings up this little thing over here if you have noticed it yet or not. So if I click on this, this is going to give me properties of how this is going to interact with the text. So right now, this is top and bottom. This is exactly what I want for this document. However, you have different options here. You have inline with text. So this is exactly what it sounds like. So if you have a picture and it's going to be in line with your text, you're going to have whatever your text is. And then immediately after it is the picture. Okay. This is square. Okay. Same thing. It's going to have spacing all around the text, but it's essentially very similar to through text, except for it's equal spacing. Type, very similar to square, just with less spacing. Okay. Through is no spacing and it just goes around the image. This is really annoying to manage. Behind the text, artistic flair, if you're trying to do that, same thing with in front of text. So in front of text can be helpful for like cover pages, but overall, I don't use this. Okay, moving on. Let's see what we haven't covered yet in terms of Word. Let's make that a little bigger. Okay, other Word document. Oh, let's go ahead and update this table of figures real quick. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to get rid of this table of figures. I'm going to come back over to references. Okay, insert caption. Nope. Not what I want. So this is what I was talking about earlier, that sometimes you need to open this up so you actually have access to the things that are hidden. Okay, table of figures. Cool. Blah, 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 blah. Format from template. That seems to be good. And notice that we have figure 1 and figure 2 here, which are the ones that we did from before, and then the ones that we had from earlier. Okay, so we're doing pretty good here. Let's go over and see what we haven't covered yet. We have not covered how to do a footnote. So footnotes are helpful for explaining technical things. So if I come over here, Hollyland, blah, 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 voice requires talents to move. So if you are not familiar with the world of acting, they call their actors acting anything that involves a person talent. So, okay, we got a little 1 here. That little 1 is going to come down here to a footnote. Talent in recording/video industry is typically the people performing for the act. All right. Now, with that said, let's find something that people may or may not understand. Something like this. Receiver wirelessly over the 2.4 gigahertz band. What I'll do here is 2.4 gigahertz. And I'm going to come over here to references. Okay, add or insert footnote, which is down here. Notice that we have a number 2 here. Also notice that there's a number 2 right next to gigahertz band. So 2.4 is a frequency radio waves oscillate. I definitely spelled oscillate incorrectly. There it is. It's not even coming up. Cycle app. That works. Okay. So a footnote is there to explain something that is not necessarily self-explanatory, and someone might actually need it to understand the document. So 2.4 gigahertz band is typically things that operate like Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz, your cordless phones, your smartphone that operates on that band, microwaves, a bunch of things. Even these lights that I'm using operate on 2.4 gigahertz instead of 5. Um, it's very saturated radio wave band. Okay, so that is footers, not footers, but footnotes. Okay, let's see what else that we have not covered yet. We did headers, we have done nested headers, we have done grouping, we have done figures. Okay. References page. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this. Actually, we have it over here already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the styles. So there's that. Let's come back to none. Okay, there's that. I'm going to change this back to header 1. Now, at this point, this is APA citation. The APA standard requires particular standards for representing your content, your references in this case. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to come over to paragraph. That's going to bring up my options here. And we need two things. So if we come down to indentation, come over to the special option, and we do hanging. Okay, so what this does is it takes the first line here, doesn't touch it, and then everything else is indented. The reason why we do this is because when you have, say, 10 pages worth of, not indentation, but references, these references become very difficult to find if you don't have this indentation. And the way that these are referenced in line is going to be something like 2022 Holland Lark. So when you see something that is offset to the left, you know that that is what you're looking for, and you're trying to match it up with the inline citation and the full reference that is down here. So there's hanging. And then 1.5 line spacing is the other requirement for APA. So we do that, and here we go. We have our APA citation. Now, one thing that I do need to point out is that if we come up here to insert citation in Word, this rarely works to the level that you're looking for. I like using the tools that are online for auto generation because it gives you more control, and then it gives you the ability to go find things like author names on your own and insert it yourself. What Word is going to do is just going to ask for a web address, and then if it doesn't get it, it doesn't get it, which is wrong because most of the time, especially when you're doing journals, they're not going to find the author name. There's going to be a bunch of authors, and it's there. You have to have it. The only time you don't have it in there is when it doesn't exist. So something like a WebMD that doesn't have an author, that's when you exclude the author because it doesn't exist. It's just represented by a entity, a website that claims to be valuable. Okay, so there is that. Table of figures. Is there anything else that we are missing? Okay, so a couple things that we can go over real quick, just in case you end up needing them. I haven't needed it at all. But if I come up here and I double click on the header space or the footer space, I can adjust obviously the header and the footer. And here are all your options in doing so. Okay. Now, if you're going to end up doing this, more than likely you're going to end up using a page number. So here are your options: top of the page, bottom of the page. Okay. You have your page margin here. Okay. Again, these are things that I just haven't used. Some companies use this as part of their letterhead, where it's just a requirement. All documents need to have it, but I haven't ran into a company like that yet. It's bound to happen eventually, but for now, for what you need, for the skills that you need inside of Word, if you get those done where you have the navigation and you have your table of figures and you have your references page and is correct, and that you can group items together, you're good. You're fine, especially for this course. All right. So with that said, there's nothing more that I need to cover here in Word, and I will see you in the next one, which again is PowerPoint. See you then.